All right, just to introduce myself, it's always very important for people to know who to blame when the wrong things are being said and when the right things don't happen at the right time. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Uluvuyo Kakaza, and I have been given the very difficult task of being the program director for today. So I do hope that you will bear with me. I do hope that everyone today will leave feeling that they got what they came here for. And if you will excuse me, at a certain point, I might say something that you thought I would not know about. I might say something that I found on your social media account, because I recently discovered that a lot of people in this room have TikTok accounts that they thought we don't know about. So if I do say it, and also, you know, when you're giving those disclaimers at the beginning, it's always very important to say, ladies and gentlemen, this is not my full-time job. And I'm saying this specifically because my boss is in the room. So if something does go wrong today, we cannot talk about it on Tuesday in the office. In that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to call on Professor Driki Hayswemer, and if she could give me a second just to read a short bio about her. Professor Hayswemer will be doing the opening for us, and then after that, I think we would then be able to go to the exhibits. Driki Hayswemer spent most of her years in university executive management. Over the last 3 decades, she was a dean, deputy vice-chancellor, and university president, and became known as a strategic and servant leader. She has published widely, more than 100 articles and book chapters on leadership, mentoring, quality assurance, curriculum development, and transformation and supervision, and supervised more than 25 doctoral and 30 master's degrees. She has a passion to see young people grow as leaders and become the best that they can be. Prof. Hayswemer served on various higher education task teams, institutional audits, and professional bodies. She was also the deputy president of the South African Association for Research and Development in Higher Education and an executive member of HELTASA. She is also currently a non-executive director of the board of the Golden Key International Honors Society. She loves her work, and her work is her passion. Ladies and gents, please welcome Prof. Driki Hayswemer.
Before I start with the official welcome, let me just apologize on behalf of our Vice-Chancellor, Professor Chris Nshlapu, who has a bereavement in his family and would have loved to be here today, but due to unforeseen circumstances will not be here today. So once again, good morning, molweni, goeiedag, goeiemorgen. Distinguished guests, EM members, esteemed industry leaders, and there are many of them around the tables here today, our valued partners, colleagues, friends, on behalf of the Vice-Chancellor and the entire Cape Peninsula University of Technologies community, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to this special occasion. This year marks an important milestone in the history of CPUT, 20 years since the establishment of CPUT. We are proudly celebrating 20 years of growing from grades, a reflection not only on our institutional legacy, but on the incredible partnerships, collaborations, and contributions that have shaped who we are today. However, we should welcome you, the leaders of business and industry, also officials from the Western Education Department, to be part of this year's celebrations. Because truthfully, we could not tell the story of CPUT without you. As we know, from the very beginning, CPUT was conceived as a university of technology with a mission to blend academic excellence with real-world application. And thanks to your support, we've done precisely that. Today, CPUT is recognized as a national and international leader in the field of work-integrated learning, experiential education, and cooperative learning. This isn't a side note in our curriculum. It is indeed a defining feature of how we teach, how we grow, and how we contribute to the society, the world of work, and various professions. Across all our faculties, and our deans are sitting here, whether it's engineering, applied sciences, business, health, wellness, education, informatics, and design, workplace learning is deeply embedded in our approach to preparing our students for the world. Our students don't simply learn about the world of work. They indeed experience it, contribute to it, and are molded by it. And that's made possible by you, the industry leaders, partners who provide placements for our students, mentorship programs, projects, innovation spaces, and often careers afterwards. Together, we are developing graduates who are more than work ready. They are indeed future fit, equipped with the technical experience, professional skills, and adaptive mindset required to lead in the evolving world of work. And those attributes are also part of our graduate attributes, which each and every lecturer should apply when they teach and when they interact with our students. Many of our alums are now industry trailblazers, bold, capable, and values-driven. That is our shared legacy. And yet, we know that the journey doesn't stop here today. As we celebrate 20 years of achievement, we also look forward, asking how can we strengthen our partnerships in the context of what used to be the fourth industrial revolution, which is certainly now the fifth, if not the sixth, with AI, digital disruption, climate change, and shifting global markets. We are eager to continue building curricula with your input, solving problems through joint research, and co-creating innovation ecosystems that empower both education and industry. And I would like to add also our communities. We know the needs of our communities. Yes, we can contribute to education in a broader sense and to industry, but if we don't play a role in uplifting our communities close to us, we would not fulfill our role as higher education institution. So today is just not a celebration, it's also a reaffirmation. A reaffirmation of our commitment to cooperative education, real-world impact, and deep, meaningful engagement with the world beyond our gates. As the Vice-Chancellor often reminds us, CPUT is not just a university in Cape Town. It is a university for the region, the nation, the continent, and we are indeed very proud to walk that path with you. Once again, thank you for joining us and thank you for being part of our journey over these 20 years. We look forward for many more milestones together. Welcome and enjoy the event. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you would have noticed a small change in the program, and the reason for that is before we engage in today's festivities, it would, I think, be more appropriate if we were welcomed. In my language, we would say we were told and feel at home, which is take off our jackets and feel at home. So now we are going to head over to the exhibitions that have been set up. We've got a number of exhibitors from our institution demonstrating the projects that they're working on, research projects, research outputs. And I think it would be quite interesting for especially for our visitors to get to understand what the research space at CPUT looks like. So we have got 3 exhibits that have been set up. One is in the AB room, one in the Imbizo room, and one by the bar area. So if we could have tables 1 to 4 joining the AB room. The AB room is this room that is right next to us. And we could have tables 4 to 7 starting at the Imbizo room, which is just through, there are doors in the AB room that you go through. You will find the Imbizo room. And then table 8 to 10. Now, with table 8 to 10, I would like to specify there's lots of security there. So in case there are any temptations that happen, but the exhibition for tables 8 to 10 is by the bar area. So hence it was important for me to mention there is tight security. There's all sorts of retina scanners and fingerprint scanners. If you try or think of anything, we will have trouble. Ladies and gentlemen, we have got approximately 30 minutes for this, so if we could then be back here in this period, then we will start to rotate, and within 30 minutes, we will be sitting back here at 10:45. Thank you. won't.
Yeah,
It won't
won't
go
go
to.
into his.
Where is it? Is it here?
Yeah.
They said it yes.
They've set it up already.
Yeah, it won't go.
And then the page.
I'm going to read your speech before you get here.
No.
Colleagues, can we please take our seats, please? Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to that time where we will resume our program. If we can just give a second for everyone else who needs to take a seat. All right, thank you very much. Firstly, let me thank Prof. Hayes-Swema for welcoming everyone. I felt it was quite important for us to be welcomed before we can continue with the rest of the program. Now, I have something I would actually like to share about Prof. Hayes-Swema. You've heard that she's a very soft-spoken person, very friendly person. And it reminds me back of a time where she almost made me fall off my seat. And I'm going to share that with you. And she's looking at me like... So this one time, I'll keep it very short. This one time, Prof. Hayes-Swema and myself and some colleagues went on some training that we were attending. Then I recall I got a phone call. I don't know what it was about, but we were walking back to the hotel. I get a phone call. So I start talking on this call, and the context is important because if I tell you who I was talking to, you might know what I'm talking about. So this phone call is from my wife, And we are chatting away. I do not know what we were talking about. And you know when you want to talk about stuff, you suddenly change a language and you talk the language that people can't hear, right? So I'm having this conversation, wonderful conversation. And on the last day of our training, we are sitting at a table, just having a good time, and Professor Swema is briefing us about, you know, how I grew up. I used to live in this type of environment. I had a good time, and I learned to speak so many languages. And we're all like amazed at what she's telling us. And then she says, and you know, I learned to speak Xhosa. And we're like, oh, really? And when someone says, I learned to speak a language, right? This is the time for them to prove it. So we're not going to believe you if you say, and I speak Xhosa, and I speak Afrikaans, and I speak French. This is the time to demonstrate it. Yes, we're waiting. And she, out of an entire table, she picks me, and she says, Ndikuvile wena. Which means, I heard what you were talking about that day. And then I looked at her like, says, Ndikuve yonke into ubuyithetha. I heard everything you said. Now, have you ever felt every emotion that you felt at a certain point in your life, but they are all coming to you at exactly the same time? It was cold. I mean, the temperature was like almost 2 degrees. I took off my jacket. I remember this conversation she's talking about. Well, I remember who it was with. I just don't know the content. That is how Professor Swema shocked me. I will never forget that day. And I always say something, I have this belief that says, if you would like me to know you, you have to do something that I will remember. And I treat it in the same way that if I would like you to remember me, I need to do something that you remember. I think that day, I will never forget a table with Prof. Swema in it and how she almost made me fall off the chair with over 20 people in the room. Ladies and gents, that is Prof. Swema. I now have the responsibility to call on the representative of our Vice-Chancellor, Professor Marshall Sheldon. But before I do that, let me give you a beef brio. I think it's Friday, right? It's Friday. I'm thinking about a beef brio. And it's a long weekend. So you can see the language is starting to change. We should actually have these on a Monday now, not on a Friday. Let me give you a brief bio of Professor Marshall Sheldon, who is now the Deputy Vice-Chancellor for RTIP, Research, Technology, Innovation, and Partnerships. Prof. Sheldon is a highly accomplished leader in South African higher education with over 25 years of experience spanning from teaching, research, and leadership. A CPUT alumna, she holds a doctorate in chemical engineering from the very same institution, which is CPUT, and maintains strong ties with the university throughout her career. Her leadership credentials are well established as well. She previously served as the Dean of the Faculty of the Engineering and the Built Environment at CPUT, and later as Executive Dean of the Faculty of Education, the Built Environment, and Technology at Nelson Mandela University. She is a prolific contributor to the academic community with numerous peer-reviewed and accredited research publications and participation in over 60 national and international conferences. An NRF C2 rated researcher, Sheldon has a proven track record of securing significant funding from prestigious bodies such as the National Research Foundation and the Water Research Commission. She previously served on the Western Cape's Education Department Council, the South African Renewable Energy Technology Center Governance Board. She holds a professional registration with the Engineering Council of South Africa and is a member of the South African Institution for Chemical Engineers, the Water Institute of South Africa, African Engineering Education Association, and the African Engineering Education Forum. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Marshall Sheldon.
Good morning, everyone. Goeiemôre almal. Molweni nonke. So I looked at the program and it still states VC Professor Chris Nhlapo. So let me just start by saying I'm not the Vice-Chancellor, Professor Chris Nhlapo. But it is a privilege and an honor to stand here before you today on behalf of our Vice-Chancellor, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, but sends his warmest regards and greetings to all of you. Let me begin by first acknowledging the people in the room, and I want to start with our honored guests, the representatives from industry and business. We have representation today from more than 32 different companies, industries, sectors, and different disciplines. And I want to thank you and acknowledge you for taking the time out of your very demanding schedules, I'm sure, to be with us here today. Your presence here with us today is a testament. Sorry, there's messages coming up on this laptop which I don't want to read. Your presence here today is a testament to the strength of the collaboration between CPUT and the industries represented here today. I also want to acknowledge our institution's executive and senior management, the DVC for Learning and Teaching, Prof. Balkaran, Acting DVC Operations, Mr. Corns, the ED in the VC's office, Prof. Swimmer, our registrar, our ED Finance. I want to specifically mention the deans of the faculties, and I want to mention the disciplines because those are the disciplines and the areas from which our students and our graduates come that are employed by our representatives here today. So I'd like to acknowledge Professor Kiyoko from the Faculty of Applied Sciences, who unfortunately couldn't be here today. Prof. Makita, I did see Prof. Makita here from Faculty of Business and Management Sciences. Professor Mji, the Dean for Education. Professor Ramsarup, who's I think also not with us, but in his absence, the Dean for Engineering and the Built Environment. Professor Ngundi from Informatics and Design, and then Dr. Brooks from Health and Wellness Sciences. I acknowledge you as the deans because you are the people that are critically involved in the students that go out into industry partners. Then I want to acknowledge all the directors and deputy directors, and specifically those that were involved in organizing today's event, and all of the staff and all of the academic and support staff that's here with us today for your continued commitment and continued dedication to propelling CPUT forward. And then I want to acknowledge the exhibitors. We all were given directions of how to go to the different rooms. And I want to thank them for the displays they've put together. And I don't think we had sufficient time to engage with them because the work that's presented there on those exhibitions and for us today is really a testament of the academic excellence that we have at this institution. And I wish there's more time during the course of today to actually do justice to what they've prepared for us today. But thank you to those exhibitors. And in your booklet that you have on your table, there's a short explanation of all of those different exhibitions here today. But let me then go on to say that today's engagement underscores the role that business and industry plays in shaping the higher education landscape. For us as CPUT, you are more than just employers of our students and our graduates. You are co-creators in knowledge, you are partners in innovation, and you would have heard I'm DVC for Research, Technology, Innovation and Partnership. So for me it's also important that our industry is partners in that innovation, and you help us shape the workforce of tomorrow. I would like to say that today's engagement talks to our Vision 2030. And I'm just going to read, for those of you not familiar with our vision as an institution, what it states. I open quotes. Our vision states that CPUT is Africa's leading smart university of technology, globally renowned for innovation, with graduates that shape a better world for humanity. Close quote. I would also like to highlight some of our goals that we ambitiously state within our Vision 2030. And the first goal I'd like to highlight is specifically under Goal 2, Objective 2.1, where it states that we want to develop programs that will prepare students for the future. The other goal that we have in our Vision 2030 is specifically Goal 6. And again, I read from our vision: to ensure the relevance and excellence of CPUT's academic and research programs, that through the development of linkages in the quintuple helix environment. And specifically under Goal 6.1, it says that we want to develop a 4x4 engagement strategy with our 4 primary communities, which is a civil society, industry, government, and academia. So for me, reflecting on what we've stated in our vision in terms of objectives and goals, and in line with that Vision 2030, this event today is testament to the invaluable support and contributions you as partners make to us as an institution to deliver on that audacious vision, goals, and objectives that we've set for ourselves. As Prof. Vice-Chancellor has said, and I would also like to emphasize that as higher education institutions, we cannot do this on our own. For us to develop future-ready programs, equip our students with skills that align with industry shifts and technological advances, we rely on these partnerships, mutually beneficial partnerships, if I can say, with industry and with business. We recognize as higher education institution that we cannot exist in isolation. We thrive through meaningful partnerships so that together we can create lasting impact, going back to our vision, making impact in terms of humanity and society. The battery is running out. Then I think it's also important to mention that your input and your feedback is instrumental in shaping our curricula, in driving research, and in fostering innovation that meets real-world, national, regional, and local challenges. That we strive to deliver graduates that obviously align with industry needs. I also want to emphasize what Professor has already mentioned before, that this year we celebrate our 20-year journey. And for me, I reflect back on that journey from CPUT 1.0, which was our formative years, where we brought 2 institutions together, to CPUT 2.0 and our Vision 2020, which was a journey emphasizing from good to great. And we've now embarked on a journey towards CPUT 3.0, with deeper industry integration, more global influence, and more technological evolutions. The theme for this year's 20-year celebration is 20 years of growing from greats. It aligns with that Vision 2020 and CPUT 2.0, from good to great, that we all bought into at the time. Through reflecting on the 20 years, we celebrate our collective achievements, and it paves the way for us to work towards an even brighter future for our staff, for our students, and the communities and everybody that we serve. So I would like to use this opportunity then today to acknowledge again the partnerships and the representatives from those partnerships in the room today that has been central and instrumental in this journey that we're reflecting on, looking back in the last 20 years. And on behalf of the institution and the Vice-Chancellor, and Professor Wimmer also said that we want to today reaffirm our commitment to growing into this Vision 2030 and CPT 3.0, but growing with you as partners in this journey. So I want to, at this point, mention that I think it is important that now is the time then that we ask, how can we take our collaboration, our existing collaborations, to the next level? And I want to ask a few questions for you to reflect on. How can we take this collaboration to the next level? Can we collectively create more work-integrated learning opportunities to bridge the gap between theory and practice even further? Can we expand our engagement with industry to provide us with mentors and advisors to ensure that our students have direct access to wisdom of professionals and experts in their respective fields? Can we deepen our research initiatives addressing local, regional, and national challenges that shape our economy? So I'm going to leave those questions with you to see how we can answer them going forward. And with those questions in mind, then I think the other purpose of today is to engage with our partners, our representatives from industry and business today, to listen, to learn, and to explore ways of answering those questions of how we can take this to the next level. How can we work together in building a more resilient, more adaptable, more innovative future for our students, our staff, but more importantly, for the communities that we want to impact? So as I conclude, Program Director, business and industry partners here today, again on behalf of the Vice-Chancellor and the whole CPUT community, thank you for walking this journey with us. Thank you for investing in our students and also in our staff. Thank you for your unwavering support, your trust in us, and your commitment and loyalty to this institution. Let us strengthen our collaborations, embrace new opportunities, and create a future where education and industry can walk together in unison. And I want to close with a call to action for everybody here today. I want to challenge everybody in the room to think bigger, to think innovatively and boldly, so that together we can shape the future of the students that we as CPUT hope to graduate. So with that call to action and the questions that I've left with you, let me thank you for your time. Baie dankie en kosi kakula.
Thank you very much to Professor Marshall Sheldon. Now, I don't know, okay, just give me 1 second. All right. I don't know the exact word for what I'm looking for, so I will use the word saying. But I suspect the more modern term is what people capture in memes, right? This one says, my family or my friends will never know if I won the lotto, but there will be signs. Have you come across that? Nobody will know, but there will be signs. Now, throughout today, you will be picking up on a number of signs that CPUT is, in fact, the greatest. You will not know, but there'll be signs. And one of those signs I want to talk about today is what just happened now. Many of you will not know this, but Professor Marshall Sheldon is an accomplished everything, and it started from when she was young. In all of the matriculants in the Western Cape, in that particular year where she matriculated, she was in the top 20. That is a huge achievement. So, why is it important for us? Because it's one of the signs. You will see more signs, but it is definitely one of the signs. Professor Marshall Sheldon chose CPUT for a very long period of her career, and as you saw when I read her bio, she actually made a mistake somewhere along the line, and she left. But hey, where are we now? Where are we now? Because the signs are there, and she missed those signs when she left. But we're here now. Ladies and gentlemen, there'll be more signs to come. But if you allow me to share with you, one of the signs, and this is actually breaking news, one of the signs that just transpired as of last night, our electrical engineering department entered students into a competition, a high-performance computing competition in 2024 June. Now, I was involved with the launch of these students getting to this competition, but we had to do something, right? We had to do something, send our students to PE. It was a nice excursion for the students. But to our surprise, and I will say surprise not because we didn't expect it, but you know when it's your first time entering a competition, you don't expect to win, right? But our students won the competition in PE. And we were told that they will be competing in December, which is 2024, December in Johannesburg. Now, there was a big achievement for us because our students won, and it was the first time for them entering. So the students went to Johannesburg last year, and they won again. Now, there was an even bigger surprise for us. So now the next stage of the competition was Germany. Our students, as of last night, announced that they came second in the international competition. Now, that is another sign. You will not know, but there will be signs that CPUT is indeed the greatest. They came second to China, and when the supervisor told me, in a high-performance computing competition, you come second to China. China makes computers. It's okay. We're not worried. It is okay. We came first in our books. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is, in a nutshell, why CPUT is the best. And moving forward, I think we have some entertainment, some stimulation, some education that we're about to have. And at this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to welcome Ms. Annelisa Friester to share her piece with us. Ms. Annelisa.
Ooh, serious people. Okay. Oh, good morning. I'm used to big stages and all of that, né? But this intimate and all these serious people, quite intimidating. But nonetheless, let me start. To our industry partners, 20 years have come and flew. A legacy of learning, growing, proudly grown. From humble roots to heights anew, CPUT stands strong because of you. You opened doors, cleared the way, and welcome students day by day in boardroom, labs, and factory floors. You help them dream and reach for more. Not all heroes wear capes. Some walk beside us, help us shape a future free from fear and lack. A life where no one's looking back. In a country burdened, fighting still with youth unemployment stats, haunting bright futures, you took a stand, made it clear with action our students matter and belong. You saw fear in many eyes, afraid to be another rise, in numbers cold and headlines grim. You reached out and let them in through work integrated paths, and they thread with skill, purpose, and boldly led exposure, growth, and chance to strive. Because of you, their dreams survive. You are the bridge, the guiding hand, the reason why many understand that knowledge lives beyond the page and that skills are honed upon a stage where learning meets the world outside, where talent can hide no more. You are the hope that students hold, the ones who turn fear into bold, the ones who give us a chance with every space, help find their rightful place in this world. Some help shape programs, some give time, some offer platforms they could climb, some spark ideas, innovating flame. Because of you, we strive further, but you all earned your name. Truly, not all heroes wear capes, but some give students dreams to chase. Some fight the fight against despair with mentorship, with time, and with care. You are the start of futures formed with hand and heart. As CPUT turns 20 strong, you helped us write our victory song. So we thank the past, we thank the now, the fallen too, we humbly bow, but most of all, we celebrate the change you help us cultivate. So here's to you, our dear partners. For every moment, every year, together we turn fear to fight. Together we set things right to becoming the MIT of Africa. Thank you.
Well, a powerhouse right there. Science, ladies and gentlemen. A powerhouse right there. A product of CPUT. And might I add, Miss Annalisa is doing her third year in chemical engineering. And one of her former lecturers is nodding. Yes, that is ours. On top of that, Miss Annalisa was a proud SRC member last year. Am I correct? I'm even tempted to find out what were you doing the year before that, because it's probably big as well. But ladies and gentlemen, that is Annalisa Freester. The first time I ever heard her speak, I do not know her personally, but the first time I heard her speak, she was talking to first-year students last year. The way she spoke to a room full of about 300 students, it is almost as if they were all looking at her saying, I want to be you. I don't care what you did. I want to be like you. But she really got those young ones revved up just from talking to them about how to become a graduate, how to be at CPUT in order for you to achieve your dreams. That is one of CPUT's biggest signs. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, we will call on the DVC for Teaching and Learning, or Learning and Teaching, Professor Balkaran. But before Professor Balkaran comes up, I want to also state, I will not be reading a bio. Prof. Balkaran chose to do this himself. He has got a presentation that he's going to do for us. And when Prof. Balkaran is done, I am not going to say anything. So there shouldn't be any expectation that I'll give you a story about him, because I know which side my bread is buttered. Prof. Bakran, over to you, sir.
Thank you and good morning, colleagues. So I didn't opt to present my bio, by the way. I just didn't want to. I think when they did ask me to send the speech and the bio, I feel very boxed in when I have to do a speech. I never had written a speech. It just kind of boxes me in. So nevertheless, I'm Rishi Balkaran. I'm the Deputy Vice-Chancellor here at the University of Cape Peninsula University of Technology. And I want to just say, firstly, well done, Annalisa. Let's give her another round of applause. It's really great. Members of industry, business, CPUT staff, executive management. I'd like to talk about a couple of things, but I think the first one is just about this wonderful tree, because I think it represents a number of things growing from grapes. And part of it is that we are here today as the Cape Peninsula University of Technology. We've accomplished a hell of a lot over the period of time. And part of that accomplishment has been as a result of a number of people that have contributed over the number of years. And of course, the roots that hold this tree and keep it really firm is about the kind of support that we've got from a number of people. At our last graduation ceremony in April, we've awarded the doctoral an honorary doctorate to Professor Anthony Stark, who was one of those that we acknowledge to have made a significant contribution to the university. And of course, the other thing that is really a significant part is you, the industry. What comes across from the time we were a technicon to now a University of Technology, what comes across very strongly is the fact that we had a very strong industry component in the things that we've done. And of course, you are here today and we celebrate that. And you are part and parcel of that accomplishment. So I must thank you. I've been asked to speak on a number of things, and I'll touch on it. Here again, a PowerPoint presentation also boxes me in because I want to say a number of things, and I sometimes go on a tangent. So if I do, I've got people here that will remind me that I am doing so. But I want to talk a little bit about the impact of industry partnerships and what it really does and what it is that exists as a UOT. What is it that we talk about the MIT in Africa? What is a UOT, a University of Technology? And what does it do? I mean, is there a big deal about it in the South African context? What does it say in an international context? So I want to cover a couple of those, and in part of presenting that, I'll talk a little bit about universities of technology in the country, the role of universities of technology in South Africa, of course, some of the common characteristics. What makes us a university of technology? Are we the same as another university across the road, or are we just calling ourselves a University of Technology because it's a fancy thing to do? And I'll talk a little bit about that so that you get a sense for what it is that we do and why it is that we are having this very firm base in terms of our direct relationship with industry, the economy, and our students. And of course, to try and locate UOTs within the South African economy, I'll talk a little bit about that. And I want to touch on some of our postgraduate work. We talk a lot about some of our undergrad. You've been dealing with our undergrad students, our student placements, and so on. But just to talk a little bit about some of our postgraduate work, to talk to you about how our stuff that we do, our research and the work that we do, and you've done a lot of touring around in terms of some of the little bits that you've just seen, how it is directly related to uplifting the quality of life on this earth. That is what we are interested in. And of course, improving the quality of life is what our research is directly related to. And that's something that I'll talk a little bit more in the presentation. And then I want to focus a little bit on some of the key employment sectors that we think that is linked to the national imperatives in the country, but also more importantly, how we connect with that. Is it just in a fancy document that we may have, or is it what we eat and breathe on a daily basis? So I'll talk a little bit about that. And then most importantly, what impact does our relationship as a UOT have, firstly with industry, and more importantly, what impact you have on us? And so it is a mutual relationship. And I think that's something that I'll talk a little bit more and show you how that is linked. And of course, to talk a little bit more about the global impact. We do not exist in a vacuum. And to talk a little bit about how this university touches the globe in various ways. And I'll kind of end on those particular points. Now, a little bit about UOTs. If we look at the past, we were technicons. And of course, with our very divided history in terms of education, we had technicons, we had universities, and of course, all of these things had very different access points. And of course, access was not for everybody. You could only go to a certain university, you could only study certain programs, and all of that. But I think the point I want to make is that post that period, it gave the new government an opportunity to think about how we could have an integrated education system, and one of our white papers speak to that, that is able to address the economy, able to address a number of things in terms of how our youth are provided access to in terms of education. And of course, if we look at the years pre-1994, and then of course over 1994 to 2000, we looked at the national plan in higher education. The technicons kind of moved and transformed into more integrated, research-oriented institutions. And thereafter, of course, the 6 technicons in the country became universities of technology, and we have probably about 8, I think, in the country. And the focus of these universities of technology are very focused in terms of the kind of work that we do, our applied research, because we don't do research for fun to look at why is the sky so blue, it has to have an impact on the quality of life. It has to create an impact on our communities. So it's about that. It's about our how we then contribute towards the national development goals, and how we then make an impact on the economy by working very closely with business. Now, UOTs, I often say UOTs. Of course, what I do mean is universities of technology. Universities of technology have a very strong, as I said previously, research and innovation focus. We focus very hard on that because we think that if you looked at some of the stuff that you would have done during the earlier on session on the tour, you would see the kind of work that is being done. And it's useful to our communities, it's useful to the country, it's useful to the province. And of course, all the kinds of research in the various programs that we do has that agenda about making knowledge useful. And of course, we have a deep emphasis on our STEM disciplines. Of course, our science education, our technological related subjects, mathematics, and so on. And of course, we have deep ties with industry and government. And of course, with industry, you are a partner, a strong pillar to the university. We cannot exist in the absence of your input, and that is why you are seated here today, and that is why you are part of the roots of this particular tree. And of course, part of that is to drive the national innovation agendas, and also to blend academic and practical training. So all of the kind of work that we do in all our programs, from first year, second year, third year, until our students graduate, is a very strong component about what it is you learn and how and what is useful about it. You don't learn something just in a vacuum. And of course, this is where you come in, because part and parcel of our work integrated learning projects, our service learning projects, is about where it is that they put into practice the things that they learn. Now, internationally, there are some of the examples I've given you just to give you an understanding of what are the other UOTs that exist. And somebody, Annalisa spoke about MIT, was just one of them. And of course, there are a number of them on the list that you can see in various parts of the world, from the Netherlands, Germany, Japan, the USA, Singapore, and so on. So I'm not going to go through all of them. So there is a very strong focus in terms of universities of technology, what it is that they do, and how it is they place themselves within the economy. Now, just to look at this particular diagram, if you, I had these few thoughts, and I asked ChatGPT to assist me and put this together, so it's done it quite nicely in 2 minutes, and I was trying to sketch this out, and it was taking quite a bit of time. But I think the idea is that you have the University of Technology. It speaks to the relationship with the business. It speaks to our collaboration. It speaks to our collaboration with a number of stakeholders, from non-government organizations, community-based organizations, to governmental organizations at a provincial, at a local, and at a national level. And of course, part and parcel of that is our students. And part and parcel of the students is what it is that they learn, how it is that they learn their concepts, how it is that they apply these concepts, and how it is that they plow back into the economy. Because we're not only developing students for the purposes of being employees, we also want them to be employers. And many of them are very successful employers who then become employees for our students, who then become members of industry, and we have that relationship. So we have turned that entire, we've turned that corner. And so another sign, Mr. Kakaza, that we've kind of gone full circle, because many of the people who are the industry today are our students. And that's really a great sign. And I'll come to this particular diagram again a little later in the presentation. But just to say that this kind of relationship, this kind of event that we're having, have a number of knock-on effects in terms of the things that we do. And most importantly, it has a knock-on effect on our economy. Now, just some of the examples, I didn't want to put a whole lot, but I just thought I'll touch a little bit about things that focus really strongly in terms of accelerating the pace of our economy. And of course, things around energy, IT, health, business, education, agriculture, these are all fundamental components within the economy. And of course, if we have to grow these things, we grow the economy. And this is where us as a UOT come into being. Now, if we have faculties that have various knowledge domains that offer various programs, and part of these programs are where our research agenda comes in. And part of that is to look at renewable energy. We have our Faculty of Engineering. I don't know whether Professor Ramsrup, our Dean of Faculty, is here. Is he here today? Our Assistant Dean is here? Okay, great. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of the things that the deans are doing with the faculties. Now, the reason I spoke about some of the postgrad work that we do, to get a master's degree and to get a PhD is a big deal. It's a lot of work. And to get a master's degree and to get a PhD, of course, to get a PhD, the test about whether you've passed a PhD or not is whether you've contributed to the original body of knowledge. If you haven't made a original contribution to that body of knowledge, you can't be considered to have passed the PhD. So if you came and said, this is blue, I'll write a PhD on blue, nobody wants to know about that. But of course, if you discovered another color, we want to hear about it. So the idea then, to talk about that, and the reason I say that is that in these things that I'll be talking to you about, some of the topics that our PhD students have gone through in these different areas, you would see that they've contributed to original knowledge in that body of knowledge that exists in these various faculties. And if you look at that knowledge, it is impacting directly into the quality of our life. the quality of the things that happen within our economy. It speaks directly to the things that industry are doing or can do or supposed to do or possibly can do in the next 10 years, because that's how advanced some of these topics are thinking. Now, if you take, for example, in the Faculty of Business, Prof. Makita, who is seated here amongst us, they speak to, I just highlighted a few things. I'm not going to go through the entire thing. I've probably got about 100 topics on this slide. I've asked the deans, which I will raise with them next week, for 2 topics per faculty. They gave me about 30. So I thought, let me just put a few on there. I can assure you, if I ask them for 100, they'd give me 500. But that is the extent to which the UOT is engaging in the kind of research that we so desperately need within our society. So 4IR effect on employment in the insurance sector. That kind of thinking about where are we taking the insurance sector today? 3D technology enhancing customer experience in the commercial sector. ICT performance in banking. So the whole concept of banking is really changing. It's fast-paced. Our students are thinking about it and thinking about where to take it. And of course, banks are very willing to listen to that. So this is where the relationship comes to the fore. Other things around small small business, for example, entrepreneur training models. In the Kailicha, in looking at Kailicha youth, I summarized some of these topics. So I took out the verbs and the Fugwoorde and so on, because I didn't want to make this entire too long. Effectiveness of the e-marketplace in Cape Town. Attrition of spazas in South African townships. We really want to know what is happening in those areas. We don't want to talk about blue sky research. We're talking about research that impact on the lives of the masses. Postgraduate contribution to leadership, human capital, and organizational performance. Here again, transformational leadership in the construction industry. We're interested in knowing those things. We're talking about service delivery, something that we really have to pay attention towards, and especially in the Western Cape and the rest of the world. But also, our students are focused on looking at citizen-centric service delivery framework, looking at monitoring private healthcare in the Cape metropolis, community participation in housing. So you can see the nature of contributing to the regional body of knowledge in these areas, because things that people have never thought about, they are thinking about that. Tourism, adaptation, Instagram, influencers, and Gen Z purchase intention in Cape Town. We're looking at, now we're going into smart grids and microgrids from a Faculty of Engineering, looking at the energy sector. They are talking about voltage control algorithms for microgrid stability, something I have no clue about, but a lot of people sitting on, from the engineers, our technicians, will tell you a lot about that. But of course, we have the South African Renewable Energy Technology Station here, the only one in Africa that's based here at CPUT. And it's producing extensive research into renewable energy. And part of that is this kind of work that we are doing. Energy restoration, using distributed resources in smart grid, DC microgrids for telecom, farming, and aid missions. Now, this thinking is going beyond even what we could grasp insofar as energy is concerned. This is where the university is thinking. This is what it is they're actually doing on a daily basis. So when the kids are here and they're busily engaged, this is the stuff that they're engaged in. Communication, the satellite communication and space communication, looking at down converter and nano-satellite communication, energy harvesting in lower WAN for space comms. Now, let me say that by the end, Prof, one of our deans would confirm this, that by the end of this semester, in this year, we would have now launched another satellite into orbit. So this is not Mickey Mouse stuff. It's about ensuring that we will launch. And perhaps, Prof. Sheldon, at some point, we could invite members of industry when we sit and we wait for the countdown before the rocket launches. And it'll be a nice kind of send-off. And our kids, of course, put funky stickers on these things to make themselves cool. But of course, it's really an accomplishment. But of course, what is that data doing? It's doing a lot, because they are saying we're having a lot of fires in the Western Cape. So one of the satellites is now monitoring fires in the Western Cape. It's able to pick it up and give us signals in a short space of time. Together with our maritime students, it's also looking at trying to manage the traffic of ships that go through our coastline. So here again, very relevant stuff that we need on a day-to-day basis. Renewable energy systems, modeling tidal energy for coastal power. Ocean energy for South Africa's coastline. I can go on and on about the various topics that we speak about, from the agricultural side to the power and electronic side to the health side. We have Professor Brooks that's seated here, who is the Dean of the Faculty of Health and Wellness. And she is busily engaged in ensuring that those postgrad students are dealing with stuff that can improve the health and conditions of our people. And now looking at the Department of Radiography and Diagnostic Imaging, they're looking at local dose management for brain CT scans in Nigeria. This is the kind of findings that our PhD students are putting out. So it is serious stuff. Our cardiovascular health and natural therapies, you would have seen some of the displays there, some of the work that is taking place, cardiovascular parameters in air screw exposed to high altitude. And I can go on talking about the fields in nursing practice, the areas around hematologic studies, looking at renal resistive index as a non-invasive marker of dysfunction. And then plants and the use of plants and bioactive compounds in medicinal use, cosmetic use, and a number of other kinds of uses. So colleagues, I think the point that I'm making is that the kind of research, the fact that we call ourselves a smart university doesn't mean it's not shallow anymore, but because it is about saying that we are serious about our business in terms of the things that we do. And this now, these topics are at the level at which people graduate with their PhDs. When they wear the red gowns and they cross the stage, after many years of hard work, this is what it is that they are producing in terms of the topics that I've just presented. Of course, cybersecurity in terms of just the need around that. Artificial intelligence. Here again, focusing on the element of smartness. Looking at smart cities and utilities and sustainability. Assisting the various municipalities in trying to understand how we can improve services to our communities. Here they're talking about smart water meter systems for sustainable water management. And of course, you would have heard Professor Krishnamurthy talking to you about the kind of ways around how we can manage our power and try to prevent these interruptions and to be able to manage that in a more efficient way. And of course, on the ICT space, we're using soft robotics in designing medical devices. So I wanted to just highlight these things, colleagues, just to let you know that the kind of business that we are in is very serious. We are busily engaged in the work in trying to make sure that we create a presence in this economy, that we create a presence in trying to uplift the qualities of life in this country, as well as across the globe. And I think that if you look at the various agricultural or non-agricultural sectors, and we're also big on agriculture, and I'll talk a little bit about that just now, it caters for about 68 to 70% of employment in the country. And of course, a lot of the things I've highlighted speak to that. A lot of the programs we offer speak to that. Professor Kyoko, who is our Dean of the Faculty of Applied Science, has just released our chocolate factory. We are now manufacturing chocolates. And of course, looking deeply into the research around that, deeply researching viticulture, and they've recently won an award in a beer competition. And I must hasten to add, it wasn't a beer drinking competition, but rather it was a beer manufacturing competition. Colleagues, I'll talk a little bit about the impact that the industry has on UOTs and the partnerships that we have together. The one is just about the skills development and our graduate employability. It is no secret that part and parcel of why people come to UOTs is they see a direct relationship between employment and what it is that they want to do. And they accomplish that. And of course, the contribution that industry makes to us is to be able to create those opportunities for our students. Of course, the collaborative research that we do, a lot of research that we do does not exist in a vacuum. All of the research from our health sciences does not exist in a vacuum. We are stationed in those hospitals to be able to train our students. We are stationed in those clinics and the various labs that exist throughout the province. We are stationed there so that students get a real live experience. When you do, you learn. That is our motto. And of course, by doing, you learn in all fields. So the kind of collaborative work that we do in terms of research comes also from the companies that say to us, look, we'd like for you to look into this. We'd like for you to look into these particular areas because we think that we know that you'd be able to find a way, a smarter solution. And I'd like to encourage industry members to take us on, task us to do those things for you. And you'll be surprised around the results that you'd get. The infrastructure development and resource sharing. We also share resources with industry. We share equipment with industry. And that too is things that we can collaborate on and we could work on. And of course, we have a number of industries that sponsor things to us. They have equipment that they feel that they no longer need or have use for, and they would sponsor that to the university. And of course, we have a lot of use for that. And so there are a number of things like that. This show kitchen, for example, is a sponsor from the hospitality sector. So there are a number of things like that that take place in terms of infrastructure development. Then there are the areas around entrepreneurship and startup and ecosystems. Prof. Hayswimmer and a couple of members at the university are currently working with MIT to try and understand what makes them tick insofar as entrepreneurship is concerned. And we are constantly engaging with them to try and understand that. And a number of our staff, our faculties are visiting those universities to try and get a sense for, because they've been there for many, many years, a university of technology like us. What is it that makes them tick in terms of what it is that they do, and how we can then look at emulating some of that. Of course, curriculum co-design and advisory boards. You are a very strong component to our advisory boards. You inform the way our curriculum works. There's no point in us developing a curriculum that has no relevance in industry. One of the things I did when I studied was that I went for work-integrated learning. I studied and I went to industry. And a lot of things I tested from what I learned in my books worked. Some of them didn't work. I went back to university and I challenged the lecturers there. It was really good because you keep them on the toes. So therefore, we'd like that as well, to give us that opportunity. And I think the advisory boards is a really great opportunity for industry to provide us with feedback about saying, we think that these are the things that you should be doing in your curricula. This is what we see lacking in your students. This is what we really see is good in your students. And it's not all students who really do well in their academic performance do well in industry, isn't it? I mean, it's really, I used to have a student who used to submit the assignments. He would slip it under my office door during the, of course it would be overdue, or he'd put it onto my car wiper in the car park. Real nonsense kid, It was really difficult to try and teach him. Of course, I was traveling somewhere and I bumped into him at the airport. He is a senior person at the airport responsible for the entire security systems at that place. And that just kind of says to you that, you know, in different environments, people perform very differently. And we've got to embrace that. We've got to understand that. And this is where he is. And of course, I was quite shocked, really. But it's just a learning process for all of us. And I think the co-design with industry in terms of our curricula is fundamental. Staff development and exposure to impact, we'd like for our staff to be placed in industry. A number of them do go and try and get an opportunity to work a few months, not necessarily only in the Western Cape region, overseas, in some of our international companies, to get an understanding of what happens there, so that when they're back into the classroom, it's not just teaching off a textbook. We always embrace the fact that learning goes beyond the classroom. It doesn't exist within a vacuum. So it's something that we hold very dear to us. And of course, the impact on our tracer studies. We'd like to know where our students are over the next 10, 20, 30 odd years. Have they come back to continue with their studies? Are they part of our alumnus? All of that is important for us. And of course, many of them, as I indicated earlier on, are serious members in industry, are captains in industry as well. The area around increased funding and financial sustainability. As we move closer and closer to the number of years that we have, more recently we begin to see the kind of constraints that we've been put on in terms of the budget, in terms of doing more with less. And here again, I really think that in terms of sustainability, if we work closely with each other, we could find ways of how we could sustain a lot of things just by having this relationship. And part of that is around our resources and so on. And part of the point I want to make here about endowments and bursaries, our work-integrated learning is about how we place students into industry. Now, the rest of the world, in some of the UOTs that exist in other parts of the world, take for example in Germany, you have the dual Hochschul system, and part of the dual Hochschul system where you have, take for example a university like Baden-Württemberg, they have, and we work very closely with them, we call it the dual higher education system, where it is unheard of where a student comes directly to a university and studies. They come via a company to study. So if they go to, for a company like, say, for example, Bosch, so Bosch would interview the student and say, okay, we will sponsor your study in this particular qualification. They would pay for the fees, they would pay for the subsistence, the accommodation, and so on. And that student will spend a month at the university and then spend a month at the university. At the company. And of course, over that period of time, over the 3 years, they get that experience. And the student then has the option of working with the company for a number of years and then moving beyond that. And it's something that we're trying to embrace, and we are working very closely with that university together with others to try and get a sense for how we do that. And we were also working with the Chamber of Commerce here at the Western Cape, because we developed a relationship. We have a body called CHEC, where all 4 universities in the Western Cape form a body called CHEC, and we're looking at that dual higher education system around how we could improve the economy by having this relationship with companies and then having students here. Because then our students are focused. They know what it is that they are here for. Because remember, it's not for nothing, because you've got to produce. When you're out there at the work environment, you do stuff. When you're here at the university, you have to produce. And of course, then you would pass. You see a purpose in what it is that you do. So I think it's a great concept. It's something that we're looking at, and we obviously, will keep you updated around where that is going. And then I see the point about applied learning and real-time problem solving, because that's how we teach. That's our pedagogy. It's really not about teaching stuff in a vacuum and so on. It's about real-life learning concepts that we teach. And of course, I want to talk a little bit about alignment with national and economic goals, because that's what we do in terms of the universities, aligning our activities with national policy, and of course very industry-specific training for example, via the CETAs, and we have a very strong relationship with the CETAs, and the CETAs have sponsored a number of research chairs that we have at the university. I spoke about this diagram earlier on, and I spoke about it in the context of the South African economy. But I want to talk a little bit about how this has an impact and how we also have a touch with the global economy. Because we further have a relationship with the rest of the world. Many of our academics learn from universities and companies abroad, and we have great relationships with them. And of course, part and parcel of our students who go overseas and train as well as settle there have a contribution that they make to the global economy. And I just put a little map there to identify just some of the places where we have relationships with. And across the numbers there are just about the very formal MOUs that we have with these universities. Of course, there are many more countries that we have relationships with, but we have a very strong formal relationship in terms of the work that goes on a daily basis. So all of the stuff that you see, the launch of our satellites, etc., we have very strong links, our Renewable Energy Center with the Germans and so on. Not so long ago, we've had a meeting with our German partners in terms of our Renewable Energy Center. And they have sponsored, we've got a donation of around 300 million just to start accelerating the pace of the work, because they're really keen about the stuff that we are producing. So as I was saying, this is kind of serious business. And of course, our students who see this and see the kind of areas that we touch around the globe are very keen about registering with our programs. I want to conclude, colleagues, just about a few things. One is that the relationship and the impact that we have is that we have mutual benefit between yourselves and the university, between ourselves and the economy. And I think that relationship must continue. And of course, we can facilitate even more that relationship to grow beyond our borders. I think it has a significant impact on our economy. You've been hearing in the press and over the period of time just about the employment rates, and people are debating, what are the true unemployment rates in the country. But I think we have serious problems that exist in the economy, and I think this university has a very strong relationship with trying to address some of those problems. And I think that our contribution to society, at another point I would like to share with you all our service learning projects, all our community-based engagement projects that I'd like to talk about at some point. I, of course, don't have the time today, but we will do so. But here and there too, we have a very strong bond with our communities that exist out there. Let me say thank you, Baie Danki, Nkosi Gakulu. If you have questions, I don't want to take over from the program director, but we can have an engagement at perhaps even when we're having tea or lunch. But thank you. I'm really excited to see so many of you here today. And I hope our relationship will continue from strength to strength. And we look forward to your participation in making this university a successful one. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Prof. Bakaran. You know when your heart and your mind are being pulled in two different directions. I'm in that position now where I'm thinking, should I or should I not? And I did say I'm not going to say anything about Prof. Bakaran because I know which side my bread is buttered. What should I do? Well, not going to do it. I actually wanted to tell you, I'm actually put at ease by the fact that Prof. Bakaran has had a couple of mischievous children or kids or, people that he's grooming. It kind of makes me feel a little bit better about me sharing my first encounter with him. He won't remember this because I didn't introduce myself to him. I was quite I was ashamed. You know, when you are in a terrible position and you don't want to say it, it's okay, Prof, I know you don't remember, but I'll just tell the story. So I got into a couple of problems along the N1, and obviously police were involved, and a lot of things happened. So they called the police van to come and pick me up because I had been misbehaving. And the police van gets there, so they took me and they threw me in the back of the van, and as I lifted my eyes, I'm like, whoa, Prof. Balkaran. And I'm thinking, no, remember, this is not about him. I'm not going to talk about him. I'm talking about me. No. They must not get it wrong, Prof. I will never talk about other people's business. I'm talking about my business. I got thrown into the back of the van, and I was surprised when I saw my boss there. So it's not about him. I don't talk about other people's business. Only kidding, ladies and gentlemen. That was Professor Balkaran, the DVC for Learning and Teaching. At this point, we will take a 5-minute break. I think we've been sitting for a while. Maybe just to stretch our legs, refresh some water, but we will definitely be starting in 5 minutes, and I do assure you, we will be catching up with the time. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, could we please move over to our seats? That's fine. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's quite important that we start. We are running slightly behind schedule, so if I could get everyone moving closer to their seats. Thank you very much. All right, I think we will be able to start. Okay, I think before we head over to the next speaker, I think it is very important for me to clarify, just for my own safety, that the recent story I just told you was completely made up. It's something I dreamt about. So if you have texted anybody, please unsend that text. It is a completely made up story that I dreamt about before I came here. Now, we have the next speaker coming up, Professor Dina Berger, who has kindly requested that I don't read her bio. And I will oblige. However, Prof. Berger must know there are consequences for not allowing me to read a bio. So in case you are brave enough, please feel free, Prof. Ladies and gents, can we welcome Professor Dina Berger.
Program Director, I'm afraid you've put your foot into it and you won't get out of it. Program Director, Executive Management, Senior Management, colleagues, and most importantly, captains of industry present here today. The topic of my talk is Simonier, we are one. Now, the interesting thing about academics is the following. They will be saying the same thing all the time, but they will just say it slightly differently. So you will hear that I'm going to say the very same thing that my previous colleagues did so eloquently, but I'll be just saying it a bit differently. So please allow me. So Vision 2030 at CPUT articulates the intent and importance of strengthening our national and international partnerships and collaborations with industry as a key driver of being an engaged and relevant university in all aspects of our academic project. For this to take flight and sustain momentum, the university has decided on 6 mutually inclusive research focus areas derived from the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the 2063 Africa Agenda, and the National Plan of South Africa. These focus areas are bioeconomy and biotechnology, space science, engineering and technology, smart energy,
the environment, climate change, and sustainability, human health and social dynamics, and the last one is the digital society. Our total academic project is designed, developed, and implemented in conjunction with industry, for industry, to further impact societies and address the most pressing needs of our province, our country, our continent, and globally, with an uncompromising focus on the highest levels of quality. We collaborate closely with industries and all organs of civil society to ensure that there is no observable gap between theoretical knowledge and practical application, advancing innovation, economic growth, and importantly, a skilled workforce. In this way, there is beneficiation and competitiveness for both sectors through mutual research, mutual education. Indeed, we are one. So what is the value proposition in all of this? First of all, narrowing the skills gap. Industries require a skilled workforce, but continue to struggle to find graduates with specific skills needed. Collaborative projects, advisory committees, internships, and apprenticeships assist students to gain valuable skills and knowledge that are useful to the job market. Graduates become employable, confident, and are likely to pursue entrepreneurial ventures, which is of benefit to them and the economy. Secondly, fostering innovation and economic growth. Working with each other can leverage each other's strengths to develop innovative products, services, and processes. Our research can be translated into real-world applications through our collaborations, leading to economic growth and job creation. Working in partnership with each other can strengthen the local economy and foster a more inclusive and prosperous society. Thirdly, solving real-world challenges. Our partnerships can address complex challenges by bringing together expertise from both sectors. These collaborations can lead to breakthroughs that improve lives and drive societal progress. Fourthly, strengthening the link between education and industry. By working together, we can ensure that formal and non-formal educational programs are aligned with industry needs and that graduates are equipped with the skills and knowledge required by employers. A recent study from McKinsey & Company revealed that nearly 87% of executives are currently experiencing skills gaps in their workforce or expect them within a few years. I wonder if it is years. A report from Deloitte highlights the critical need for continuous learning opportunities in the workplace to keep pace with rapid technological advancements. These reports underscore the importance and necessity of strong, mutually beneficial, and enduring partnerships between universities and industries to develop relevant programs at undergraduate and postgraduate levels, as well as short learning programs to address immediate skills needs and requirements. Fifthly, funding and resources. Our partnerships can provide funding for research projects, bursaries, scholarships, and other benefits that may not be possible without such support. This funding and resources, such as equipment and lab facilities, can be significant for us as we need more resources to invest in research and development. Working together as one will inevitably enhance our reputations. In summary, we are indeed one, and through collaboration, we are preparing a future-ready workforce that can drive innovation and address pressing societal challenges. Outside of this room, we have exhibitions demonstrating our excellent work with industries. Please join us hereafter and let us continue the conversation to further partner as one as we have always been and will be tomorrow. As a wish from my side, I trust that we can form a tight compact to identify key challenges in our society that we can tackle together as a collective. We are, after all, a united community. Simonier, thank you.
Thank you very much to Prof. Berger. Now, Prof. Berger, thank you very much. Did you see the look I got? Now, ladies and gentlemen, we move over to the next speaker, which is our keynote speaker, Mr. Thapelo Letsoalo. And if you will allow me to read a little bit about Mr. Letsoalo. Thapelo Letsoalo is the Senior Manager for Human Resources at the Airports Company South Africa. Over the years, Thapelo has built invaluable experience across various industries, such as retail, labor, funding, and project management in companies such as Edcon, Pick n Pay, pharmacies, Nehao, NSFAS, and now currently the Airports Company South Africa. Thapelo holds a Bachelor of Arts degree with majors in psychology, economics, business management from Vista University, now the University of Pretoria, a postgraduate diploma in business administration from UNISA Business School, and currently completing his MBA with Regent Business School. Thapelo is passionate about all elements of human resources management and organizational development effectiveness through effective human resource management strategies. Ladies and gents, please welcome Mr. Thapelo Letsoalo.
Wow. Good day, colleagues. Professors, I'm tempted to go back to school further than this because I'm sitting closer to professors. Can you, maybe it's HDMI. Yes, my name is Thapelo, as indicated, and I'm working for AXA. They like giving me projects. I'm 3 months with the organization. They're saying go and speak to academics and industry experts. But I said, okay, it's fine. Let me take the bull by its horns. Thank you for welcoming us, Program Director. Are we seeing? Okay, there we go. So my presentation, I'll try to manage it like a professor did, speaking from my mind. I'm a practical human resource professional. And I got interested to the conversation when we were talking about merging theory and practice. And indeed, Professor, some of the theories, when you try to practicalize them, it's a square something in a round hole. Yeah, that's what we are seeing. So colleagues, I'm here to talk about the future of work. I'm here to talk about skills development, innovation, and how can we strengthen partnerships. So working with AXA, I was introduced to this strategic priority. I'm not going to go into the background of AXA because of the time that we are given, but just zoning into strategic priorities of AXA. At this point, we're coming out of COVID, where we saw a lot of VSPs, a lot of people who left AXA just for the organization to survive and so on. But now we are saying we're back in action. We've seen lots of fries, traffic, everything is happening around our airport. And I must say, I'm not national, I'm representing this cluster in Cape Town and Kimberley. So we're looking at Cape Town International Airport, we're looking at George, we're looking at Kimberley Airport, we're looking after Appington. So that's what I'm representing, but I'll touch a bit at the global picture of what we are doing from a skills point of view. So looking at the priorities that we actually have committed ourselves, we have Visions 2030 Prof as well, and digital transformation is one of our key priority. And what does it mean from a skills point of view? It means that everything in the organization is going to digitize. I remember I was sitting as a trustee in the pension fund around 10 years ago. And what we were talking then, we were comparing mining from a revenue point of view with companies like Vodacom, MTN, and so on. And what came out of those presentations was saying what mining is generating from a revenue point of view with about 165,000 employees. At the time, Vodacom was generating with about 8,000 employees. So it tells you that from a skills point of view, we are moving from labor intensive into knowledge workers, information workers, and so on and so on. So AXA is not an exception. If we don't shape up, we are going to lose war on talent. So we are basically saying that we are digitally transforming, and then we are also in the business of creating smart airports, and we are also relying on technology for analytics that should inform our decision making. This, again, when I was reading, I was flying from George, I realized that in the farming industry, what we are recognizing now, drones are able to assess your soils, are able to tell farmers to say, this is what you need for this crop to grow and so on. So it means that as knowledge creators, from a human resource point of view and from an academic point of view, we are actually lagging behind, trying to catch up with this world that we are working in. And as Africa as well, yes, we have pockets of excellence. However, we are lagging behind from a digitization point of view. What do we do to catch up? Is to basically strengthen these partnerships that we are talking about now. I didn't realize up until I see the exhibition that, wow, actually what we are ordering from China can be produced locally through this kind of partnerships and so on. It's surely a sign. I'm learning from the program director. So, from I'll rush colleagues. I'll just take that some of these elements are red because they are on the screen. So our vision for the future is to innovate, grow, and sustain, and to become as profitable as possible as an SOE. And then we are customer-centric in nature. In our case, passenger-centric. We got a query from one of the human rights organizations. An email came to me to say, we need to train our security employees in what do you call this? Soft skills, because they are actually hard when it comes to passengers, when they are passing through security points and so on. And they are saying that they need a meeting with us to make sure that this happens. And definitely we've taken that up, and then we're making sure that we hear those kind of stakeholders who are actually helping us to be better in the airport, as one of the examples. So colleagues, this is how our airport is designed. We have aspects of our airport that is highly regulated. Basically, if we have a problem in that area, the airport can be closed because of compliance issues and so on. One of the examples is that we have firefighters. We have a division called firefighting. We have been looking for a fire chief. I'm told that before I arrived, there were 4 attempts to go on a recruitment process to look for a fire chief. We found somebody last year in the Dubai, UAE, and because of the conditions of contract, he had to withdraw from joining AXA in Cape Town, and we are back in the market. Going down to the actual firefighters, we realized that if we can strengthen our partnership, maybe with higher education, to try and see what does a firefighter do. Let's develop a curriculum on firefighters, for example, because it becomes a pain. If they decide to say we are striking today, it means the airport must close, because from a compliance point of view, we are not compliant and so on. So those areas are what I believe that we can partner in. I know that there are many private institutions that are basically producing these skills. What does it mean for us in the public environment, for example, when it comes to that area? We have maintenance and engineering that deals with lighting. I saw the exhibition talking about lighting. Actually, we can procure this locally. We can even release some of the engineering students, electrical, mechanical, civil, and so on, environmental, into AXA through partnership to say, let's modernize our airports with your skills and so on. And that would generate the actual talent that we are looking to take our airports forward. One thing, talking out of my head again, is that we don't have a qualification in airport management. And what does that mean for higher education, for example? We actually, through our learning and development, we started going NQF based. And we realized that most of the talent that are, especially in our cluster in Cape Town et al., are rich in experience, but they don't have academic qualification. That's an opportunity for partnership again, for us to partner, make sure that we recognize their experience, we recognize their learnings and so on, and maybe at the end of the day, they can come out with a qualification. Our South African context actually forces us to go the NQF route. However, we should not actually work out these talented people who have experience in industry. What we are seeing again is that our attrition rate goes to the United Arab Emirates. They take all our skills because they don't have the same composition of minimum requirements from a job profiling point of view and so on. We lose a lot of airport managers. We lose our group executive as well in operation. We just lost him, I think, about a month back, going into the same United Arab Emirates. What does it mean for us? What does it mean for succession planning and so on? When those positions have been linked to an NQF, but those that are below, for example, does not have that NQF level 9, for example, it's an opportunity for us to look inward and say, what can we do to enrich our people, make sure that we benchmark them, and then we are able to actually make them competitive in the job market and so on. Secondly, we have our operation management that talks about customer-facing, passenger-facing elements of our business and so on. And we have support functions where you'd find your IT as well. SCM is a challenge in our environment. Loss of skills that have been lost to the private sector. What do we do? How can we partner with higher education to make sure that we have sufficient supply of these skills as well? It would be greatly appreciated for us to sit around the table and look at what can be done, especially from an airport, professionalizing our airport is concerned. Right, going further, these are the areas of impact that I believe we can have structured partnership, committed partnership through MOUs and so on. Aviation safety is one area that we are now insourcing security. And when we started the recruitment processes, we realized that the competency level of our general securities out there does not meet the requirement from a testing point of view of how we want security to be engaging our passengers and so on, to be applying themselves with technology and so on and so on. So we realized this through insourcing that there needs to be a structured partnership to make sure that we elevate the skill level of the ordinary security into the security that we need for national key points like airports, for example. Environmental compliance, we are working within, within a community. And one thing is that we are trying even internally to ensure that even our service providers are compliant. We have boreholes that environmentally we cannot extract all the water as we please or as we want. We need to make sure that we are compliant from an environmental point of view. What would be the impact of our airport in our cluster, for example, from the environment? How does our environment impact the Nyanga area, the Langa area, and then so on and so on? Those are the areas of research probably that we need to start engaging on. I never knew that bird and wildlife was a scarce skill until I entered into the airport. Most of the accidents, research tells us that are caused by birds. When the flight take off, the bird goes into an engine, you are going to have a disaster. So at this point, we have a way of dealing with it. However, during rainy seasons, I was in George 3 days back. They are saying rainy season creates a bad problem around the airports. I said, why? Because the worms are coming up because the ground is wet, and then the birds would flock into the airport and so on. So now that creates a risk for aviation safety and so on. What do we do? Is there technology that we can employ to chase the bird, to manage our environment for our safety? You know, when a flight takes off, it's not only a Boeing that takes off. There are lives in those jets and so on. So how do we make sure that this partnership enriches our sustainability from a safety point of view and so on? That's the question that we are supposed to be unpacking. Mechanical, electrical, civil, and building. One of our passengers was rushing to catch a flight. And you know our automated doors, they are transparent. And when you are late for a flight, it means you don't even see that this is open or closed. So the door fell down. He bumped into the door fell. He said, don't worry, I'm interested in my flight. I don't want to miss my flight. So things that we take for granted like those, we need to be frosting our doors. What technology do we need to be employing? For example, when we started engaging, we are highly regulated as well. How will Civil Aviation Authority treat us when we try to do this cosmetic exercise in a highly regulated environment, for example? So technology can assist us, innovation from higher education can assist us, and so on. So I would like us to further have this type of engagements in these particular areas. And I'm mentioning these areas as those that I see as a critical and priority. Yes, we have other support functions like HR, like your finance and so on, but we believe that we have oversupply. We are not short of those kind of work integrated learning. And most specifically in that cluster, we have what we call model of centers of excellence versus business partnering. You find that our center of excellence is in corporate in Gauteng. But here we are operators, we are the ones who are putting theory into practice every time. So now we want to maximize this relationship so that we get the right skills, we get the right technology, and we get the right processes in. From a process point of view, we have ISO certification, especially from an environmental point of view, and then from an engineering point of view, and so on and so on. So now, what other certifications can we employ? What technology can we use that our students are actually introducing into the market here to actually make our airport good place to be. Make sure that the passenger experience is maximized and so on. Those are the questions that we are talking about, and then seeking answers from this collaborative relationship. So youth development through work integrated learning and so on, I got the statistics yesterday that globally as AXA, for the past 3 years we had about 640 beneficiaries, and then of those, 80 have been absorbed into permanent roles within AXA. So what does it mean? It means there's an opportunity. Within our human resource strategy, we have what we call job creation. These are the initiatives that we look at. We know that if you cannot be absorbed by us, definitely our international competitors will be absorbing you. So now these are rich careers that we are talking about. It's not that just a touch and go that we want to assess, talking about lifelong learning, lifelong careers and so on. And of that, we spend about 8.6 million on youth development. And then this encompasses workplace experience initiatives and so on. In Cape Town, we have TTBSA that has supplied us with about 17 interns and learners. And then as you see at the bottom there, these are their qualifications, and then by virtue it tells you where they are. There's no representation from an engineering point of view, there's no representation from a fire and rescue point of view. So what does it mean? So if we focus on need-based, value-based relationship, we need to zone into those areas that we have referred to in the beginning, because here in finance, human resource and so on, there's definitely oversupply. We have DDED interns as well, that they are about 27 in number, and they are also on the land side of our airport and so on. They are not in those respective areas that we are talking about. So looking at our Vision 2030, some of the skills that Prof has spoken about, you can see they are already projected here to say there are skills in the labor market that are actually phasing out. And then there are those skills that are core now and within 5 years. And then there are those skills that will be emerging and growing. For example, if you are looking at AI, if you are looking at cybersecurity, environmental stewardship, design and user experience, in our case, passenger experience, micro-learning, gamification of learning, cloud computing, for example, those are the necessaries of the future. Those are the necessaries of the current labor market, what we need to be having, for example. To be computer literate now is no longer what we call a flagship. It's a minimum requirement. So what are we going to do for our people? And I'm talking like this, we know that we have an oversupply of labor in South Africa, and some of them are at home. They are even discouraged to even look for work. Basically, the pace of technology is phasing out a lot of skills in South Africa, rather in Africa. How do we bring them back into the economy to participate through higher education, partnership, and industry? Is one of the assignments that I believe this type of engagements will lead us into. I will not go into everything again. So since I started working, and I realized this when I was doing my postgraduate in administration, that these are the competencies that are represented in the organization, whether we like it or not. Anyone who comes into an organization, whether as an intern or as a learner up to an executive, you are exposed to strategy, you are exposed to policy, you are exposed to systems, you are exposed to procedure, you are exposed to people management, you are exposed to leadership, ethical by virtue. You are exposed to stakeholder management and its relationship. You are exposed to, even from a function point of view, project management, and some you have to lead projects, for example. Financial management within your own space, you are exposed to it, whether you are administering it, you are facilitating, or you are actually leading and doing the budget and so on. Risk legal risk and compliance, we are all exposed to it. From when we start contracting to throughout the employee journey, you are exposed to, you need to be compliant with policies of the organization and so on. And Prof, you touch on the Gen Zs. They are a very, very different generation. We have fire tankers. We bring in interns with driver's license. Those fire tankers cost about 9 million and above. And then an intern would take it and then crash it in the operation. And when you ask what happened, they'll say, no, I had a muscle pull. So when you check the insurance excess, plus minus 450,000 to fix, some of them are written off. So it talks about ethics, it talks about what graduates are supposed to be learning, maybe as a question, in higher education to prepare them for the work environment. We have car rental companies. We also rent those companies. We keep keys there. And our interns, again, would take a key and then they would say, no, I'm doing a spin when you do your investigation. No, I was doing a spin. I wanted to test the car. So those are the Generation Z. Yes, there are benefit to these initiatives, and then there are also pros and cons of the Generation Z and so on. So what is it that we are supposed to be engaging on as industry with this type of highly educated, highly passionate, but there are mistakes along the way? What are our risk tolerance as industry for this particular skill that we are going to be welcoming as we are facing the older generations in the workplaces, for example? Those are the challenges that academia and us in practice are supposed to be engaging on and so on. Information and knowledge management, most of the organizations that I've worked for, they don't have knowledge management hubs. Keyman, when you do org design, you realize that the information is with Professor so-and-so. Should Professor so-and-so leave, the information and institutional memory of the organization is gone. We have to call Professor so-and-so on a fixed-term contract because we believe that he or she is the knowledge hub of our organizations and so on. So what do we do from a technology point of view to take out knowledge out of people into the organization? And we introduce knowledge from an organization point of view, not from a key man's dependency point of view. That's one of the questions. Reporting and accountability, especially in the public service, is one of the key skills that we are supposed to be cultivating along our people, making sure that there's no entity, whether state-owned or privately owned, that exists to just create employment, for example. There's a mandate. The balance scorecard talks about 5 elements. Talks about financial aspect, talks about the people aspect, talks about the operational aspect, and compliance aspect, for example. We need to master them all. We need to be sustainable as organization. So now what is it that we need to be doing? Entrenching in the DNA of our people as they enter the labor market to say, this is the expectation. Most of the expectations in organizations are not written down. They are as a manager wishes. I normally tell my in Mencos to say, don't come to us in HR when you are fed up. Come to us when the problem has happened. And we are going to say, where is your standard? So we need to make sure that in industry as well, let's make our standards known to these graduates so that where there's deviation, we are able to correct. That is the employee relations part of human resources. So I'll pass this one. other organizations out there, I came across this while I was working for one of the state-owned entities, strength-based organization. Clifton Gallup says that in every organization and at all levels, you have executors, we have influencers, you have relationship builders, and you have strategic thinkers. Companies like Huawei, for example, they know how to categorize their employees. Their recruitment process say automatically when you enter, they know that your strength is execution. And then their work is not based on a job description, for example. They are basically saying all our work or our programs, as it has been referred to, is project-based. Therefore, if we want execution in a project, we are going to take all the executors into a team and then let them manage that project and see it to finish. If we want strategic thinkers, we will put them together and make sure that we come up with good strategies that are implementable, that can be measurable, and so on. If we want people from a stakeholder relationship point of view who can manage those what you call risky stakeholders for us, these are the table one, people who know how to manage a stakeholder environment properly. And they put them, when the project and the work is finished, they go into other projects and so on. That is the future way of working. If we don't catch up with it, it will catch up with us. And then most of us, if you see entities closing, it's because they fail to maximize and leverage technology and so on. And I'm glad that this institution actually is at the forefront, competing neck on neck with China. Yeah, so basically this is what I was sharing with you colleagues to say. At this point, we are where the bottom, most of the industries in South Africa use workforce, use ecosystem type of workforce. Then that's where now when interns and learners comes in, they come in at this point. But when you look at the future, for us to be competitive, we are going to go into work tasks to fulfill the mandates of our organization. Exactly the example that I've shared with you is what that means. You no longer have a senior HR manager, you have an HR person who can be a stakeholder person, who can work with the engineering team to fulfill the vision and mandate of the organization, to fulfill the programs of the organization. That's what where industry is going. How are we doing within the South African context is the question that we need to be asking ourselves. And how are we doing also academically to prepare the talent for this future? Whether they are employed or they are entrepreneurs, we are all going to be faced with this particular type of competition going forward. Innovation. I've spoken about the airport management qualifications. Maybe we need to sit down and look what does this mean? And then what will South African civil aviation say about this type of qualification? We need to strengthen our partnership from a fire and rescue point of view. Wildlife, we have a learning academy as well that we can introduce to colleagues in the learning academy to say, what do we do? Our learning academy, we have clients in Tanzania. In the main, African airports are coming to our learning academy to learn, but our offerings are only informed from also our knowledge, our practice, and so on and so on. What can we do to enrich it to become an academic qualification, for example, or to infuse it in one of the streams that you already have that would be relevant in our airport environment. RPL is key. As I've indicated, we move from skills-based, and actually we did we worked against the trends. We actually went back to NQF, whereas the industries are actually moving away from NQF. And what does it mean for us internally? All our recruitment process internally are NQF linked, NQF 6 to 10 and so on. But the people that we are having, especially in our cluster, have 10 years, 17 years, 25 years experience. and they do not have the necessary NQF. It's an opportunity for us there as well, because getting somebody from outside, they cannot match with this experience, with this practice that our colleagues have in their own functions and experience and so on. So what we are seeing also, learners and interns, we are taking them through programs, and then at the end of the day, they apply for our jobs. And when they get to interviews, they panic. What does it mean? There's an opportunity for us to start developing softer skills of the learners to make sure that they gain that confidence to present their strength, and then they also gain that confidence to also know how to mitigate their weaknesses, or what we call opportunity for growth. Once we have that, I believe that majority of the unemployment percentage statistics that we have is because of the confidence issue. Our graduates are not yet competitive in the labor market, not because they can't, but because they are failing to represent themselves in the interview context. Yes, interview is a traditional format, however, unfortunately, it's still there in our selection processes and so on. How do we strengthen our youth to present themselves, to say, I know myself, this is what I can do, and so on and so on. It's one opportunity there. I talked to current interns. Some of them are 6 months with us, some of them are 10 months, to say, what is the state of your logbook? What I get is that we haven't even started signing it off. But that logbook is a necessary evil for that particular learner to graduate, especially in the universities of technologies. We need to start strengthening ourselves in terms of partnership. Maybe we shouldn't leave these interns to themselves. How do we partner as higher education, as sponsors of the interns, and so on, to say we give them sustainable support. We make sure that we also hold the line management accountable to sign those logbooks, because at the end of the day, they need to graduate, they need to be signed off. And with the same logbook, the content means is what I'm confirming that I know in order to present myself in that particular interview in order to get a successful job, or to present myself from a business point of view in order to get that funding for my business to kickstart. So I will stop here because all this I have mentioned, program director. Thank you very much. But I just wanted to highlight these important aspects of the work environment, because it's necessary for us to get a win-win out of integrating our employees, our graduates into the workplace successfully. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Mr. Letsoalo. I think having listened to that conversation, what I pick up is the opportunities highlighted where the universities need to focus when it comes to the development of the young students. Also, some of the things that we talk about, how do we, I think we've got graduate attributes where we say our graduates should leave the institution with a certificate, but what else do we do to prepare for them? And I think you've given us pretty good insight in terms of what to look at, and especially the partnerships that could be had between private industry as well as universities of technology. Ladies and gents, I will ask the next speaker, Dr. Liesel, Dr. Liesel Hudson. And also request that Dr. Hudson, please do come forward. Also request that Dr. Hudson give us, the highlights, because we are in a bad position, and I know, obviously, yes, thank you so much. But please, ladies and gents, let's welcome Dr. Liesel Hudson.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am not going to stand between you and your lunch. We are way over time.
But I do want to thank Mr. Letswalo for providing us with that plane and giving us the opportunity to access first-class seats in that plane. It's now up to us to access those seats. And in terms of fire and rescue, I come from Health and Wellness Sciences. We will definitely be in touch. So I'm representing the faculty will coordinators. I'm from Health and Wellness, as I said, and I told my colleagues I will call their names. So the team that will contact you is Mr. Andrew Rand from the Faculty of Applied Science, Dr. Belinda Cornelissen from Education, and then also Ms. Bonita Alice, she's from the Faculty of Business and Management Sciences, Dr. Amanda Morris, who's from FID, the Faculty of Informatics and Design, and Mr. Kohlhofer from FEBE, Faculty of Engineering and the Built Environment. He's not here today, but I'm sure that there is representation. So look out for us, engage with us during lunch, because we can't miss this opportunity to fly first class, you know, with all those thrills and thrills. Colleagues, I'm not going to read. The success stories that I was supposed to summarize is in your booklet between pages 14 and 20. I had one sentence about these, and I do want to acknowledge those partners that could join us today. Now, if I need to switch off this tree, you will just see something that's just there. But I want the industry partners to know that you are the light in our curricula, in our institution, across our programs, across our faculties, because you really bring us together. You don't allow us to work in silos. And I can see how the silos in our faculties are starting to crumble because of the pressure that you're putting on us to produce these graduates that is future fit for purpose, and also fit for that future world of work. So thank you to the colleagues from Mercedes-Benz who are here. I thought I'm going to get into this plane and take you on a little journey, starting in the Eastern Cape, that Mercedes-Benz plant. And when I read through the story, it was really this world quality cycle from curricular development to quality management, getting their hands dirty. As Prof. Balkaran also mentioned, the dual higher education, I could see how we can easily morph into that model. And then you're going to read through these stories, we're going to fly over the Atlantic Ocean and then come back to Capitec Bank, who visited our students on campus. And so you as industry partners, we don't only send our students to you, but you also come. Look at, we're full house. You come when you're invited, and it's not only for a plate of food. I do want to highlight that in our faculty, at this moment, 2 of our staff members are busy working in the Eastern Cape floods. So work-integrated learning and industry partnerships are not only about workplace-based learning for students, it's also about staff development, where as a staff can hit the ground running and keep on running as technology and industries are changing. So these success stories, Prof. Sheldon, hopefully provide a wetting tip of the iceberg to answer your questions that you pose to us. And next year, I know when we celebrate the 4th VC's Business and Industry event, we're going to talk about this entrepreneurial university. We're going to talk about and answer those questions that were put out to us because of you, because of our engagements with you. So thank you very much. Thank you, Program Director. I hope I stuck to my 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hudson. And I believe we have come very close to the final stages of our program. And I will read very quickly the bio of the next speaker, which is the same number. Oh no, okay. I am getting some requests to not read the bios, but I will call on the next speaker, Mr. Msulwa Daca, who is the Executive Director of Finance.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, sorry, good morning, everyone. Or is it afternoon already? Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for obliging. I think it is because of time. I was looking forward to hearing my bio being read. I'm here just to, and I thought because we have run out of time, I will say they could cut this part of the program. But I think it's important that we appreciate you having left your workspaces to come here, and maybe firstly to the business community, industry leaders, representatives who are here. Thank you very much for joining this event and participating in this event with us. To all our speakers, and especially Mr. Litwalo, thank you very much for gracing this occasion and speaking about opportunities that are available for our learners. And I must also thank whoever appointed the program director. I think it's important, you know. The person who appointed the program director to be the program director today, I think he did a great job. I usually thank the coaches, not the players. But thank you to all the exhibitors. Also, I think we had a wonderful exhibition that we have seen today. I think there were 3 stations, but I think probably another station that we shouldn't forget about is the one that we're in, which is our living lab. This restaurant is also another exhibition on its own, because that's also one of our showcases that we have as a university. I also want to thank the team that put this together. I think there's even the marimba band that welcomed us as we walked in. Thank you to that team. This is CPUT students again. I'm told they are science. This is CPUT students again who are beating those drums, and those are assets of CPUT. You know, I deal with university assets. Those drums are also CPUT assets. Then I think it's important also then to just, I think Prof. Sheldon, Prof. Balkaran have already spoken about where those linkages can be, and also Prof. Becker in terms of us linking up with industry. And from my desk as the Executive Director for Finance, I also signed those Section 18 donation certificates. And if you donate cash, SARS is going to give you some favors. Then thanks to my colleagues from the university who are all here, and we really appreciate this event, and we hope that this event is going to grow bigger and bigger every year. Thank you, everyone, and have a safe journey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I believe we have reached the final point of our engagement today. And I think in my last words of closing, I would like to reiterate, I think even for myself, that having been a part of today's event was truly a pleasure. I have been with this institution for almost 20 years, and even standing here today, I can still say I still belong. And I belong because of the philosophy or the view that the institution takes when it comes to appreciating people that work for the institution, that work with the institution, and everybody that gives support to the institution. So from that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I have done my piece, and I hope I've served you well. And good luck going forward. We will definitely be enjoying some lunch right now. An announcement was given to me to pass to you that if you had a special request or a particular meal that you had requested, in your little bag that you've got with your name tag, there is something at the back you need to pull out and hand over to the staff that are going to be serving us the lunch. And also just last note in closing, I know Mr. Daga asked me to say this, that when we are done, there's a table outside for all of those with outstanding fees from CPUT. He's got forms that you need to fill in. So please pass by his table. He'll be waiting for you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and have a very wonderful time. Second, ladies and gentlemen, I have been requested to facilitate this last part where the institution shows appreciation to you. And I thought it's very important that we do it at this time before lunch, just in case some other people leave afterwards. If I may have all of the industry partners standing up at this point, because something that is meant for you should be arriving at any moment. So just where you are, please do stand up. The industry partners, every single one that is representing a company, please do stand up at this very moment. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a token of the Vice-Chancellor's Office's appreciation. I do not know if that makes sense. This token of appreciation is from the Vice-Chancellor's Office. That is what I wanted to say. All right, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. The intention here is for you to carry this with you wherever you go, so that everybody that you meet is aware that you are affiliated to CPUT. Thank you.